Hello and welcome to our new episode of Semmelweis STEMtalk. Today, we are delighted to have Dr. Annamária Ditta Zobor, who is an associate professor and clinician at Semmelweis University's Department of Ophthalmology. She specializes in rare hereditary eye diseases and has an impressive 17-year tenure in Germany, bringing her innovative approaches and experiences back to Hungary. As a recognition of her scientific work and achievements, she was recently honored with L'Oréal-UNESCO Hungarian Scholarship for Women in Science. And beyond her professional roles of a doctor, researcher, and an educator, our guest is also a family woman and a mom of 3 kids. Thank you so much for joining us today. Can you please tell us, did you always want to be a medical professional or doctor?
I'm pretty sure I always wanted to do that because my parents and many people in my family were on kind of connected to medical life, so to say. My parents are both physicians, and my brother became a physician. My uncle is an anatomy professor, so I think I'm pretty much influenced by them, but not directly. It's just like it was our everyday life at home. As kids, we always visited, for example, the clinic where my father was working, and it was just like belonging to us every day, to my brother and me. So it was not really something very unexpected that both of us applied to become doctors, and we both studied medicine.
I see. And, I think from personal experience and of people that I know, when you become a medical student, inevitably, everybody starts to ask you almost from the very beginning, what kind of doctor do you want to be? And while for some people it's an easy answer, for others it takes years before they find out what they want to do. In your case, what made you want to choose ophthalmology, and how did you come to that decision?
Well, at the beginning of the university, I didn't have any plans that I want to do surgery, I want to do something in another direction. I was open to everything, and I just really enjoyed learning new things, having anatomy even. I think I was also very lucky because I had very good teachers who I could relate to, who could motivate me in every way. So I still remember some of these teachers, for example, in pharmacology, and I know them by name actually because they had such an influence and impression on me. And I think I was open to everything, actually. I knew that I didn't want to work only in a lab. So personal contacts and being in near to patients was very important to me, but also research, because I also think that doing detective work and doing really special things and finding new things is also something which is really important to me, even in my everyday clinical work as well. So I think I was open to everything, actually. And in 5th year, we had ophthalmology. And then I thought that could be something for me, because it's something which is, it's not the main line everybody would choose. So it's also special. But actually, everybody needs an ophthalmologist sooner or later in their lives. And even if I only prescribe like glasses or I do conservative ophthalmology, I can be very happy. But it also has a surgical part, and this is also very diverse. So you can become in ophthalmology also anything you want to be. It also very specializes. So I think there is a tendency in every direction that even in these smaller cases like ophthalmology, there is a specialist for anterior segment, there is a specialist even for the Muller cells or for the retinal pigment epithelial cells. So I found it very fascinating and how the retina works, and I think that made the point where I said I wanted to be an ophthalmologist.
Wow. And you spent 17 years in Germany, if I'm correct.
Yes, I've spent 1 year already as a medical student in Germany because I received a scholarship. And I did 1 year break after the 5th grade because I thought once I have this opportunity to go abroad, I didn't want to do anything else. I will try to work only in the ophthalmology department. So I had 1 year spent in Freiburg in Germany, and I really loved that time. Not only because of the city, I really enjoyed that area of Germany also, but also because it was really fascinating. People were very kind, and it was really new to me, everything. So I decided already at that time, when I come back and finish my 6th year, that for at least 1 year I would want to go back. And then I came back, I received my, I finished my studies, received my diploma, and I applied again. And I didn't only choose Freiburg, but also applied to other universities. And the head of the Tübingen University, Professor Trenner, invited me for an interview. And I thought, oh, this is such an honor, and this is so great that even as a freshman, I have this opportunity to talk in person to someone. And I visited him, and he is such an amazing personality, not only as a researcher, but only as a human being, that he made a very, very deep impression on me. He already told me what he is working with. So his main topic is electrophysiology, inherited retinal diseases, and these are all rare, special parts of ophthalmology, even that. And he asked me whether if I wanted to do that. And I said, well, it sounds very interesting, but actually I'm open to anything because I want to learn ophthalmology. And he actually convinced me at this very first interview that I should go for this, because this is really something which I will learn to love. And it was a process, actually. It's very hard. I think it's a very difficult part also in Hungary, in ophthalmology as well. But he was right from the beginning that I really love and enjoy doing what I do, actually. And this is really a special field which nobody, or only rarely the ophthalmologists are focusing on. I think since then, so since 2005, it has changed a bit because therapies and innovations are becoming more in the focus. So being a geek was becoming actually somebody who is mainly because of these innovative therapies like gene therapy, stem cell therapy. It was something which was then interesting for also other people. And I really found this way really nice, and I wouldn't do it any other way.
And so over there, you were working as a clinician and as a researcher, or were those two separate tasks?
I received a scholarship. So it was an obligation to do research. But I, at the same time, was also doing the specializations. So during the day, I was doing actually the ambulance. I was on the ward in OR and so on. And I did the duties and the extra work on the weekends. And in my free time, or if I had time during the day, I was doing my research topic, because this was something where I was receiving money for.
Right.
But I really also found it very interesting. And in Germany, there is a possibility that, of course, you have 5 years and you do the specialization, but you need to do a rotation. So a certain amount of time spent on anterior segment, on retina, and so on. And I had the opportunity to do 1 or 2 years, including the retina part also, as research. So there were some times where I could mainly focus on also my research topic, but it was actually doing 2 things at one time. And then I did my specialization, and then I decided to go further and move on with the research. But I was also working then in the outpatient clinic, actually, for patients with rare diseases.
I see. And I assume that everything was in German.
Everything was in German, but also in English, because Tübingen is very multicultural. So it's an excellence university, actually, in Germany. It has... it's really famous, and a lot of researchers come there, and the... Institute for Ophthalmic Research is actually consisting of different kind of laboratories, including molecular genetics lab, including animal research, basic research. And we were in the same house, so we were all together. And there were many PhD students from abroad, from anywhere actually. So besides talking to the patients and to my main colleagues in German, I was really using English as the second, what kind of language, because my mother tongue is Hungarian. Yes. And I was talking to my husband in Hungarian at home, and then we were talking in I needed to talk in German or in English when I was working.
And did you learn German before you went there in school or university?
Yes, I did actually. As I was a little kid, my brother and I started to learn English first, and I already really enjoyed it. And then that was the time when we started with the second language, that for 1 year I learned Russian. Mm-hmm. But then it was the time when they said, okay, nobody has to learn Russian anymore. So they canceled, and the parents were saying, okay, it's good that, okay, they don't have to learn Russian, but it was a second foreign language, so we would need to have something instead. And the parents organized actually after school hours that our class received German classes. So I started like that in 3rd or 4th grade. 5th grade was it actually, when I was like 10 or 11 years old. And then it became part of the normal class hours after a year, I think. So I studied German in school. I did not really much like it because I preferred to use English. That was my first foreign language. But I did the exams for both because I wanted to do it.
Yes.
And we lived in Debrecen previously, and as we moved to Budapest, I was 16 years old, and in the other school, I decided to go for biology and chemics, because at that time I already knew that I would want to apply to get into Semmelweis University, and I needed to do the exam in Germany, so in German language, so that I didn't have to continue with that study. Mm-hmm. So I did it, and I didn't use that language for like 5 years.
Very ironic.
Yes. It was like, check, it's done, and then I didn't use it
again.
No. And I was fine with English, and then at the university, as I received the scholarship, my husband, who was my friend at that time, he convinced me that, why don't you use this opportunity to go in a German-speaking country, because then you could just catch up, and English is already good, so you can go for something else. And he was so right. And I was so tired in the first days because I needed to talk in German. Yes. But then, but I got used to it, and now I love it, actually. And because we lived so many years there, and my kids went to kindergarten there, and we know all the traditions, I think it's just like part of my life now. I know all the music for small children and everything in German culture, so I think it's just kind of, it gave me so much extra. I'm really happy with this decision.
I see. And so when you first moved there, a young female doctor moving abroad, what was challenging in that experience? What were maybe some cultural shocks that you experienced, or maybe on the contrary, something really pleasant and surprising that you didn't expect?
I didn't experience any cultural shocks, I think, because Germany and Hungary and Austria and Hungary, we have many things in common, actually, regarding our history also. Yes. And because I could speak the language, it was not so difficult for me to fit in. I think it was a bit easier in Freiburg, in that area of Germany, because they were more open a bit. And then when I moved to Tübingen, it was like the Swabian part of Germany. They keep their distance. But because in the university, in my everyday life, I had so many contact with other people from abroad and from everywhere, I think I didn't experience that as being difficult. Yeah. But definitely, sometimes I was sometimes considering, okay, I'm here with a scholarship and doing twice the work as my German colleagues who just simply got a job and they just simply have better chances also. So I think I needed to work harder a bit as a foreigner, and of course I also experienced as a woman as well. But I didn't experience that as a breaking point for me. So I think it just made me tougher, And I think it's just something, because of my boss, I really enjoyed staying there, and he was always very open to any questions, and he was he was actually an inspiration to me.
Yes.
And he is at the very moment still. So I think I really enjoyed being there. It gave me so much that I would recommend actually to many people, when not to everyone, that they should go abroad and get these experiences on their own. But then what they learn about abroad, the different perspectives and the knowledge, please bring it back home, because being at home and not being a foreigner is also a huge difference.
I see. And you mentioned that your children went to kindergarten there
Yes.
and everything. So I assume you started your family there as well?
Yes.
And how did it work for you and your husband, this decision to be there? Did he join you there, or how did it work for your family?
Well, I was very lucky that my husband is a great partner, and we could discuss everything, and we made these decisions together. And he's also Hungarian, so he followed me when I was already in Germany. We had some time when we were separated, like the distance was sometimes 1,000 kilometers and sometimes only a few hundred, but still he followed me. So we were living actually then in Germany. Interesting fact is that I always came home to give birth with all my 3 children. So actually they were born in Hungary, but I always went back. I think it was because of my family that I wanted to have them around when I give birth to my children. And it was in Tübingen, we had the great situation that actually it's a small town, but it's very academic, because it doesn't have any industry. It just has the university. So everybody is actually in the town working or in the university. So it's an academic town. And what we found as a kindergarten, also the parents were like us, and we could relate, and this was a small town and very family friendly, so I really enjoyed that part. And because I was at that time already doing mainly clinical research and not the duties, I could be more flexible with my time, so I could say that I want to pick up my kids at 4 o'clock, not only at the end of the kindergarten hours. So I think I was very lucky with that situation, because it gave me the flexibility to do the research, what I would love to do the most, and also have a family and have quality time with them.
And did you feel like you had the necessary support in your workplace for when you decided to start your family?
I think so, but I think it was, I don't know, it's a general thing for the whole system. I think it was my boss, Professor Trenner, that he gave me this freedom kind of to, he had many expectations, and he was also very engaged in research as well. So he was really the top researcher, and he is actually still a top researcher in Germany and in the whole world regarding inherited retinal diseases. But he was always very motivating, so it was not like doing it without having fun in it, or without having good experience with all these extra works. I think it just gave me so much plus. And on the other side, he was not expecting from me to stay there for 12 hours a day, so I could just do my own schedules, and the main point was that I made, and we made together all these goals which we have decided on.
Right. You mentioned that you started your research on rare diseases back in Germany. What are the challenges for a researcher that deals with rare diseases? Because, I guess every researcher has their own set of challenges, but rare in itself.
Yeah, it's an orphan disease, as you would also say. So it's like interesting, but not interesting enough that you get, for example, enough financial support. So it's very difficult, but I was in a special environment, I would say. As I started, these diseases did not have any therapeutic options. So there was maybe like giving vitamin A or just eating more healthy, and UV support for the eyes so that you protect your eyes, but you could not really do too much, because 20 years ago we had known already many things about how the retina works, and research was doing a lot, but still there was no therapy actually. So when I was advising a patient, for example, 10-15 years ago even, the therapeutic options and what I could see was very limited. But we were already doing so many research on that, and we in Tübingen already had our genetics lab, especially for ophthalmological diseases. Right. It was very an extra thing that it gave everyone the hope that sooner or later there will be something. And then many things have changed. There were some tendencies that some subretinal implants, electronic implants, would be the therapy option for inherited diseases, but it's very difficult actually to find a uniform for every disease fitting and for every stage of these diseases fitting therapy option. So one was, for example, 10-15 years ago, the electronic implants. My boss was also one who has developed such an implant. And it was very interesting to see these changes and to go through this evolution, so to say. Yeah. And then as the expectations were met, but people might have wanted to experience more or have even more benefit than what researchers could achieve. And parallel to that, gene therapy was really developing. Then it just changed the spectrum a bit, how we deal with patients. And now at the very moment, gene therapy is the one everybody is talking about. And there is already one approved therapy. So for one gene from the 300 plus minus genes, where we have really a special and approved therapy in gene therapy in ophthalmology, which is great. But it still doesn't cure everyone or doesn't heal everyone's disease. So there is even much more work to do. And gene therapy is probably also not something which is the option to choose in every stage of the diseases. So it's very, there is a spectrum, and there is a very diverse way how you could manage these diseases. And it develops a lot. Yeah. And researchers are really focusing on it. And now we are in the time, I think, where it's becoming interesting also for the pharma industry and also for financial supporting, because it's really something. But it was a very long journey. And parallel to that, we needed to have many information from the genetics. So it was developing very slowly. But I think there has never been a better time than now. Probably in 5 years, we will probably have even more options. But still, as when I look back to the years when I started, it has changed a lot. And these orphan diseases really get more and more into focus, because we do have to see that although these are rare diseases affecting not so many people, but these are the younger generations. And when they are in such a situation from birth, or when they finish university and then they have to replan their whole life, it's very devastating. And this is something which we have to take care of. So I think it's changing now. And this is a great time for us, for everyone, for the patients and for us doctors as well.
And how does it feel, dealing with diseases, knowing that you don't really have too many options at the moment, or maybe for, some diseases where you don't have any options at the moment? How does it feel as a doctor having patients like that and knowing that you can't really do anything now?
Yeah, I think it needs a lot of empathy. I think it needs a lot of human side. So we need to spend many, many hours with the patients. I think it's very necessary, because they don't have any connecting points. And even if I take the time and explain everything, and we discuss it, and we discuss the options, what might be available in the near future, what they could do, what is the progression of the disease, how will it affect their lives, I think I really need to be very supportive. Sometimes it's like a psychological task also for me, to find in every person, in every different kind of patient, the connecting point where they can relate and I can relate to them. So I think it's sometimes very challenging. Therefore, I cannot really see like 30 patients a day, because I just cannot do that. I want to spend the time, and I want to take the time with these patients to talk and discuss, because they need help. And if I cannot offer medical help, I still need to offer something. So when they go out after a whole day examination and so on, they have to have something which they have in their hands. I think now it's very important that we keep their hope that therapeutic options are on their way. And actually there are many clinical trials ongoing now. So this is also a very good thing, and this gives hope to everyone, both the doctors and both to the patients as well. But if I don't have this special situation where I could just look up, okay, for this specific gene, look here, so many studies, I even have to say that they should come and we see together how it develops, and that each and every disease is developing individually. So I really probably have to keep their hope in medicine, and I really need to stay in contact with them, so they need to come regularly. And also as a doctor, I think it's very important to have very good connection to the patient organizations and to the rehabilitation centers, because if I cannot do anything for these patients, I can still contact them with these options, and they just don't fall into the deep and nothing. And there is somebody who can help them with their everyday lives, and this is really important, I think.
And what do those organizations do for the patient?
Patient organizations are dealing with like mobility training, or if you need special optic aids, they can help you with that, to apply for that. They know these social questions more than a medical doctor as well. And they also form kind of a community. So patients with similar diseases can ask other patients with similar diseases what their experiences are, so that they don't feel alone in this world. And they also organize like sport events or other events. So that's a connecting point, and I think it's very important to not let people stay with their problems alone. And I try to be a connecting point also with these patient organizations. And just recently we have actually organized in our ophthalmology department that we have every day, almost every day in our clinic, 2 hours when one of the representatives of these organizations come in and is available for the patients as a first connecting point, so that they can go there, get their information, and they know where to go when they go out from my examinations.
Wow, that sounds fantastic that they have those options. And what is different for you working here in Hungary now compared to, for example, the work that you did in Germany? Is there something different about the working culture? I don't know, about the working environment?
Well, I really enjoy being at home again, so not being a foreigner, because even after spending so many years abroad, you still stay a foreigner. They will know because your name is already different. So
I can relate to that.
Yes. So it doesn't matter how much time you spend abroad. I think you still stay a Hungarian one, or where you come from. Although I really liked that situation as well, being abroad, I even enjoy more that I am at home now and speaking my mother language and helping patients in my home country. The difference I experienced regarding my not personal life, but regarding other aspects and also the clinical work, is that Germany is still a bit more organized in for example, in the clinic. And I think what I do, that doing clinical research and doing outpatient clinics, so this mixture of these two is something which is not really so common, at least not in my ophthalmology department. So you're either a clinician or a surgeon, or you either do research.
Right.
And for me, it was obvious that I want to do both, because I cannot live without having contact to patients, and I really need to do the clinical part. And I also really find these days are the best when I am in the ambulance, and where we solve the mysteries, solve the problems, and I can help. But I also then enjoy thinking about these diseases, thinking what is behind, why does it look like that, how does it look, what is the difference between the two different kind of genotypes, for example, if a disease is caused by a different kind of genetic problem. And I really enjoy doing functional diagnostics, so how we see the world, how we can measure seeing color, or how we can measure dark adaptation or visual field, because there are so many aspects of vision.
Right.
And I really enjoy that part as well. But for that, you need the time, because after hours, it's just not an option really, because
of course.
it's you need also the patience. So I try to do a mixture of both, where I can spend time only for research-oriented things, and I also do the ambulance work.
And do you feel like you have the infrastructure and the support now to combine these two activities, or is it more complicated right now?
I think the infrastructure is good, but it could develop. So I am continuously looking at different kind of applications, EU grants, national grants, where I can apply to get some money, to get some devices, some special. It's very also. I'm very interested in doing new things, so I constantly apply to get some money and to find a way where I can get this device and I can test it and I can do something and do research with that. I find it a bit harder applying from Hungary. This is very honestly what I experienced, because probably there was is more focus on rare diseases in Germany or in the Western countries. And here I don't really see very special applications only for rare diseases, but this is an option. But also sometimes in the EU grants, I don't know, I find it a bit harder when I as a Hungarian researcher apply for something. I hope it will change, and I am really not giving up. But at the very moment, I think it's just that was a bit easier in Germany.
I see. And what made you want to move? What motivated you to move back?
I think the main motivation was because of my family and my children, that I wanted them to experience that they have grandparents, and then that we are here and we can see each other every day and we have a close connection. We actually always wanted to come back sooner or later to Hungary, but that was then the time when my oldest daughter started school, that we have decided, okay, this is the time point where we need to change. So mainly it was a private decision, and I didn't regret it.
And what was the move like for your family? Was it a smooth transition back here for you, for your children, or was it?
I think it was smoother for the children than for me, because I think they are not, at that time my oldest daughter was 7, my son was 5, and the smallest one was 2.5 years old. So I think that was also a good decision not to wait any longer, because I think when they grew older and then have their own friends and have their own way of thinking, they would probably fight against us that, oh, I don't want to go back, oh, I want to stay here are my friends and everything. So at that time it was quite easy, because there were some friends, but it was still kind of a smooth transition, because then they experienced totally new things, and then the grandparents were here, and that was also very positive. And we came back to Hungary very regularly. So like every 2 or 3 months we were here.
I see. And what were the challenges for you personally? Because you said
For
it was
me-
easier for the children.
Yeah. For me, it was what I told you, that it is a new way of, or not new way, or a different way of working and combining research and clinical work.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was something where I needed to fight for a bit,
Right.
that I am allowed to do this, so that everybody accepts it. And I think I spent not too many, but really many years abroad.
Yes.
So although I knew some people from my clinic, but there were so many new faces who didn't know me or didn't know what to do with me. And even if I came back as a person who did many research work and did the habilitation, and I was already someone abroad, I actually started to introduce myself again and win them or how do you say that, convince them that I know something.
I see. I can relate to that in many ways. And what would you say, what were the most important lessons that you learned through these experiences?
The most important thing is that I would never give up. I always try to stay motivated, and I'm not expecting this motivation from anyone else, because if that falls out, I'm left alone. So my motivation is myself, because I have my goals and I know what I want to achieve here. I know what I would, how and what I would want to see in 5 years where I am.
Yeah.
And I'm working towards these goals. And and also what is very important, that I want to be there for my children. So I don't want them not to see me, because I think this is the most important thing when you have children, that this is your most important project in life. So even though I'm very enthusiastic in my work, I always try to go, and I always go actually when I finish at 4 to pick them up at school, and then have these 4 hours or 5 hours until they go to bed spent with them, with my family. This is very important to me. I would never change that. Sometimes, of course, there is a meeting or something which I cannot really do sooner, earlier or later, but I always try to focus on this and respect this time, what I can spend with them. And probably that's the reason also why then I work so many late hours, which is probably not healthy. I should change. But I think I don't want to change many other things, because my kids are working or doing quite nicely, and they are having a great time actually. They are really happy now, and I want them to be happy, and I want them to be motivated, not only because I push them, but because they also see that I am happy in the work I do.
That sounds wonderful. Now, to wrap up our talk for today, I have one last question for you. Do you have any advice for young people, and maybe specifically for young women, young medical students or young graduates who want to go and experience work life or research life abroad? What would you suggest?
For young women, besides your question, for young women in general, I would probably also, a most important thing, you cannot plan your family. So there is no ideal time to having children. So when I don't think that young women or young residents or medical doctors should be planning, okay, I finish my residency and then we will have kids and then so on, because for the lucky ones it happens, but sometimes life happens differently. So I would not plan on that. I would, because I'm very family oriented, I would probably say family comes first, and when you get pregnant, then you're pregnant, and there is a life after that, and you can still become a researcher or a very famous doctor or whatever, even if you have kids. So I don't think that's an ideal way, because there is not an ideal time to becoming parents. Right. So I think this is a lesson I have learned. And the other thing is, I would go tell everyone, also young women, but also men, to go abroad and get some experience outside alma mater, so what
Yes.
you would say, because I think you have to open your perspectives and you have to have different views on the whole situation, and you have to have experiences where you are alone, where you have to fight for yourself, not that it was like a tradition or that you already know this place, because change needs to happen sometimes, and you are the one who is going to change some things, and you need to have these experiences in you. So I would recommend to everyone to try themselves and apply for a scholarship or go abroad for a while. But in an ideal situation, please come home, because you need to bring back all this knowledge, what you get from abroad, and I think the university now is very open to innovations and research and developing. So I think it's a great time now at Semmelweis University for people to stay here and change and improve the system.
Wow. Thank you so much for your fantastic advice. Thank you for sharing your story. It was really, truly incredible. And thank you for coming.
Thank you for the invitation. I was really honored. Thank you so much.
Thank you.